A klali v'ruchani la'aron Shmuel ben Tisa Lester, and in loving memory of her parents, Ben Zion and Yonah, from Shula ben David, from the Miami Beach group. When we look at Parshat Tisa, which is the classic Parsha of the sin of the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, it's really the sin that has transformed Jewish history for all decades. And this transformation and this change is what I'd like to speak about in the form of studying the luchos, the special tablets that were given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's interesting that in source number 1a, that when he finished speaking to him on Mount Sinai, the Torah tells us that it gave Moshe 2 tablets of testimony, stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God. So originally, when the tablets were given, it was describing the luchos in very, very simple terms, that they were inscribed by the finger of God. Then we have the story of the Chet HaEgel, and now Hashem says, Lech rei ki shichet amcha, go down, your people have turned from the proper path. And here we find now, right before Moshe Rabbeinu meets the actual Egel, the actual golden calf, we find then source 1b that Moshe turned and descended from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, tablets inscribed on both their sides. They were inscribed on one side and the other. The tablets were God's handiwork, and the script was the script of God engraved on the luchos. So here, right before they're destroyed, we have a much, much greater description of what the luchos and how magnificent the luchos were. In fact, in source 2a, it notes that what does it mean they were ktuvim, inscribed? The very manner in which the tablets was inscribed was testimony to the divine origin. For even though they were inscribed through and through on both their sides, the writing was miraculous in 2 ways. It was not reversed on either side, and as the sages teach, the middle of the letters, the samech and the final mem, remain suspended in midair. So we have this incredible description of the greatness of these luchos. Then, finally, these luchos, these incredible luchos, were smashed at the foot of the mountain. And then, after much pleading and begging from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, 1c, Hashem said to Moshe, carve for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I shall inscribe on the tablets the words that were in the first tablets, Asher Shibarta, which you shattered. So now, my friends, let's raise a number of questions when we look at these 3 psukim. Question number 1, why is it that the details of the first luchos are only really found, not the original time Hashem gave them to Moshe, when we would have expected them to be found, but right before they were smashed do we find how special and how unique they were. Question number 2 is to understand the Medrash, which also gets us in the spirit of Purim, that we find in the Medrash, V'titzaveu la Mordechai ladat mazeh v'al mazeh, that Esther sent Mordechai to know mazeh v'al mazeh, what is the reason for his sackcloth? And the Gemara Megillah says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak shalcha lei, she sent to him, Shema avruah chamisha chumshei Torah dichtiv bei mizeh u'mizeh hein ktuvim. The mizeh u'mizeh from this and that remind us, bring us back to this pasuk of mizeh u'mizeh hein ktuvim. And the Medrash asks, Esther is saying, did they perhaps violate the Torah, the luchos, about which it's written, they were inscribed on this side and that? And we need to understand what is the connection that the Medrash is making, that Esther is somehow connecting the violation of the people at that time to the luchos, in particular in this aspect, that it's written on both sides. And finally, perhaps the most important of all the questions, and this is the question that Rav Munk brings down in source number 3. He says, in describing the 2 stone tablets like the first ones that Moshe Rabbeinu was told to make the second set, which of the 2 sets of tablets was more precious and had more stature. If the first one clearly seems to be the one that was made from God and had the writing of God on it, and the second one was hewn from Moshe, and yet the writing was the hand of God, what is even the question of which one is more special? Which one is more precious? To even think of such a question when the answer should be obvious, is not the first one more precious. This question is the question I'd like to Mirz Hashem deal with today. The technical answer Rav Munk brings is quoting the Ibn Ezra, who says that although both tablets were inscribed by Hashem, the first tablets were divinely created, while the second were hewn by Moshe. But he brings down Rav Saadia Gaon that the second tablets were received on Yom Kippur, which means that the second